Here to go over the first episode of Contender Series 2024. I'm not promising, guys, that I can do all the Contender Series episodes just yet, but I had the extra time, before going out of town this week for work, so I'm giving it a try. And if these videos do, at least about as much as my normal UFC videos do, I'll try to keep doing them. If that's the case, man, but no promises just yet, but I'm going to do this one, see how it goes. None of the lines are up for these, quite yet, so I don't have the odds on them, but I just want to go over and do a breakdown of who I think is going to win and whatever. So one thing about Dana White's Contender Series is it's dog city a lot of the time. I noticed that, like last season, when I would be betting on, picking favorites, a lot of them would lose, almost every time. So it's possible to get, some good prices on some fighters, bet the underdogs on these. So yeah, so yeah, I'm just doing the picks. Please like and subscribe, guys. It'll help me out a lot. If you're new to the channel, what I do is I go through and give out my picks and my bets for the card. I'm also available on Spotify, iTunes, all that stuff, your major streaming platforms. And my social medias are highkick_fight on Instagram and TikTok. And there's a Facebook group, High Kick Fight Picks on Facebook. Post your bets, anything MMA related in that group you want to post, go ahead and post it, man. It's all about helping each other win money. So, and as always, guys, I'm working with Bovada.lv. It's one of the best, books out there, in my opinion. One of two books that I use, but it's my main one. If you go to my Instagram and scroll through all my stuff, you can see tons of screenshotted winning tickets, and they're all off Bovada.lv. Use my link down in the comments, and it'll just help me out, man. If you try the book and you don't end up liking it, hey, whatever, I understand. But if you're interested in help out the channel, if you like what I do and stuff, you can use my link, sign up, make a deposit, and that puts a little bit of money in my pocket. So yeah, thank you guys. And yeah, man, so this is there's some interesting fights on this card, and a lot of stuff that I'm not like super confident in. There's some fighters on here that, like, I look at, I know they're like heavily favored, and I'm looking at what their fights and what they've done, and I'm just, it is kind of difficult, sometimes to pick these guys when, they're heavily favored. Everybody on Tapology is going with them, and you look into their stuff and you're like, yeah, they got a lot of finishes, but they've never been out of a second round. They've never, they've never really actually had a full fight, 3 rounds or anything. So sometimes it can be a little scary trying to pick some of these guys, but excuse me. First up, we got Antoine Ho taking on Loner Kavanaugh. And Tuan Ho is 23 years old. He is 5'6" with a 66.5-inch reach. He is 6-0, and basically what we have here is a LFA versus Cage Warrior prospect face-off here, the flyweights. Ho has 3 wins by knockout, 1 win by submission. Really young guy. He's only 23 years old, so all the room in the world for improvements and to get better. Spent his whole pro career in the LFA. He also went 7-0 as an amateur with 3 submissions and 2 knockouts, so he's a little bit more experienced than his 6-0 record indicates. He's going to be the taller, longer guy here, supposedly. Sometimes these aren't right, once you see him in the UFC and on Dana White's Contender Series, it all changes, but according to what I have in front of me, he's the taller, longer guy here. Yeah, the LFA has him as 5'7", and Tapology has him as 5'6". Either way, his opponent's supposed to be like 5'4", so... yeah, he looks really good, man. Very fast, great counters in the pocket, has some good sweeps, and he attacks submissions off his back really quickly. He definitely knows what to do everywhere, man, and even when he's in bad positions. He got taken down in his last fight, but he was constantly working to get to his feet in a lot of different ways. So his opponent, really couldn't get anything going, and eventually he hit the switch, and he would end up on top. And I mean, it was actually some pretty high-level grappling stuff going on in that last fight, man. They were back and forth, and You know, he eventually ended up on top, and then he moved to a crucifix position a few times. But he's mainly a striker. You know, that's what he likes to do is strike. But a lot of guys just try to take him down. He is good everywhere, man. Great scrambles on the ground. Fights well from both stances. Switches a lot. Good in and out movement. Great cardio. Throws nice straight shots. You know, very technical. Great combinations. Great footwork. Does a good job of firing shots off. You know, off of the stance switches. He trains with Sean O'Malley. Sparred with him. You know, he's got big knockout power. And I was really impressed with what I saw out of him. Actually, both these guys are very impressive, man. And he's taking on Loner Kavanaugh. He is 25 years old. He is 5'4" with a 6 or sorry, with a we don't have a reach on him here, but he's 6-0. 4 wins by knockout, no wins by submission. So that indicates that, you know, Tuan Ho is probably a little bit more well-rounded. Kavanaugh, unlike his opponent, did lose a few fights as an amateur. Also, his amateur record looks a little bit sketchy because there's like 2 draws in a row and a no contest, which kind of makes me think that somebody was trying to keep him from having a bunch of losses on his amateur record. He's heavily favored on Tapology. Once again, like I said, Tapology says this guy's 5'4". His last win was over a guy who was 6-0, but to be honest, you know, I don't know. I don't know how that guy made it to 6-0 because he was just out there throwing jumping attack after jumping attack and spinning attack after spinning attack and getting off balance and just leaving openings everywhere. I mean, the guy looked really dumb, you know, doing that. He was just getting countered the whole time. Don't know how that guy made it to 6-0. But yeah, he's got big knockout power, man. I don't know that he's as well rounded, like I said, as Tuan Ho, but he does seem to be strong in the clinch. He's, you know, pretty strong because he's often throwing his opponents around when they try and take him down. These are both good fighters, and they're both probably going to make it to the UFC one day. Kavanaugh throws hard calf kicks. He might have that advantage here. He's got pretty good kickboxing, but he really only strikes, though. He doesn't try and get takedowns. He doesn't give his opponent anything else to think about. But the guys that Kavanaugh has been beating don't look like they're all that good, and they haven't really had much for him at all. So, yeah, he definitely hasn't fought anyone as good as Tuan Ho yet. And if Tuan Ho can avoid the leg kicks, I think he has the better hands, and I think he has the advantage on the ground if he could get it there. You know, am I super confident in it? No, but I do like what I see out of the younger guy here, and I'm going to be going with the LFA guy here, taking Tuan Ho to win this fight. Neither of these guys ever been finished, I don't think. So, I mean, I just take him to win by decision. But this has the makings to be a very close fight and a war as well. So it's going to be a fun one. Wish I knew what the odds were. Next up, we got Carl Brito taking on Ernie Juarez. And Brito is 25 years old. He is 5'10". We don't have a reach on him here. I guarantee he has a reach advantage, though. He's 7-1. And he's got 5 wins by knockout, no wins by submission, never been finished. His last win was over Junior Duarte, who's a pretty experienced guy with a halfway decent record at the time. He was 10-4, and Duarte went on to win his next 2 fights after the Brito loss by knockout. So obviously he's a pretty decent fighter as far as the regional scene goes. So that's a decent win for Brito. It's been almost a year since he's fought, and it appears that he's been kind of having trouble getting fights. His opponent, all his opponents keep dropping out or whatever, and this guy's from the Fighting Nerds camp. There's so many good fighters out there lately. He's a tall, rangy guy, fights well out of both stances, uses his jab very well, fights long, good sprawls and takedown defense, nasty straight left hand. And I couldn't find a whole lot of tape on him, honestly. I only found like 3 fights. And, I mean, he has great kicks. I saw him clip a guy with a nice, fast, high kick. You know, I definitely think he's the better striker here. He definitely manages distance well and uses his range very well. But yeah, I couldn't find a whole lot on him, man. So I mean, it's not super confident in that. But like I said, he does look very good though, and he's a young guy. He's taking on Ernie Juarez. He is 8-0. He's 5'9". We don't have any other information on him for some reason. 2 wins by knockout, 2 wins by submission. He fought his last 5 fights in Uriah Faber's organization, and I don't think we've had any fighters come out of there yet and make a big splash in the UFC or anything. So I could be wrong. I just don't remember any. He's going to be a few inches shorter, so I imagine Brito's going to have the reach advantage, like I said. He's the featherweight champ in that organization, fighting out of Stockton. He beat a guy from Kazakhstan in his last fight, but that guy really hasn't had a great career up to this point. But Juarez fights very aggressively. He's never been finished in MMA, but he was knocked out in a boxing match not too long ago. He got taken down in his last fight and was, you know, using a closed guard at the beginning of the round. Which is not really something you want to see because he wasn't trying to get up, and he got dominated that whole round by that guy. But he ended up coming back and winning the decision. He's a short, stocky guy, very powerful, has good jiu-jitsu. I just don't think he's going to be able to get Brito down here, and I think Brito's going to outstrike him on the feet. So I'm taking Brito to win by knockout round 2. I think Juarez is going to rush into a big counter, straight shot, and get put down. Next up, we got Bruno Lopez taking on Mikel Saziani. Hope I'm saying that right. That sounds more Italian than it does, Georgian, the way I say it. Bruno Lopez is 31 years old. He's 6'2" with a 74.5-inch reach. He is 12-1 and 0-1 on the Contender Series. I almost said the UFC. 5 wins by knockout, 5 wins by submission. Most of his wins have been by finish. He's never been submitted. He lost to Britson Ribeiro his first time on the show, and he was undefeated up to that point. And he's fought some decent competition. He seems to have skills everywhere. He's going to be the taller, longer guy. Also just the bigger guy all around. He's favored to win on Tapology, but that could simply be because people are more familiar with him than this other guy. Bruno's the LFA champion. He has big power, nice trips, nice trip takedowns, good body lock takedowns, great jiu-jitsu. Won his last fight by triangle choke. Throws nice step-in elbows. Not the most technical striking. Tends to kind of throw nothing but heavy shots, with a little loop on them, like hooks and stuff like that. He doesn't straighten them up all the way very often. Ribeiro was able to beat him with that long reach and speed and countering Lopez while he was rushing in with those long shots because he had a big reach advantage. But he got put all the way out in that fight. On paper, it appears like he's going to be the bigger guy, and he's going to have an advantage on the ground here. He's definitely fought the tougher competition and has the better wins. But yeah, you just never know what you're going to get with these guys. So Saziani is, we don't even have an age or anything on him. We just got 6 foot tall, 13-2, and 12 wins by knockout, no wins by submission. Both his losses have been by finish, 1 submission, 1 knockout. He's on a 6-fight win streak right now, and this guy kind of reminds me of Azamat Murzakanov because he looks like a middleweight, man. Most of his wins early in his career were over guys with like little to no experience. He does have decent wrestling. Some of his wins are via ground and pound. Throws great calf kicks. But one thing I see, looking at the guys that he's fought, over there, is that, most of the guys he's fought have either been like his size or smaller, and he's 6 foot tall at 205. So he actually is kind of a small 205er, and I'm talking like he's been fighting guys that are 5'9", 5'10", light heavyweights. So, and most of them seem pretty sloppy. Most of them gas out. Not very good competition he's been fighting. He could have a power advantage in the hands. He's not got a lot of knockouts. There's been a lot of tough guys coming out of Georgia, but I mean, the skill set wise, I think Lopez has shown a lot more of a well-rounded game and has fought a lot tougher guys than this guy. And like I said, a lot of the fights that I watch of Saziani, well, it just kind of looked like a lot of him beating up, gassed out guys that weren't very good, So, like there's one of the guys that he beat. The only 2 fights he ever had, he's fought Saziani twice and got beat both times, and that was all he ever fought. So it's almost like they're bringing guys in to kind of build him up, if that makes sense. But you never know, man. Either one of these guys could get a knockout. But based on what I've seen so far, even though I really wanted to go with the Georgian guy, I think I got to go with Lopez, man. Based on what we've seen and based on the size advantage and everything. So, but yeah, a lot of unknowns with Saziani though, for sure. I think he's gonna have to cut down to middleweight though if he does make it to the UFC. Next up, we got Ming Ding taking on Islam Dulatov. And this is one where I really had a lot of trouble with, man. And I'm curious what the line's going to be. Islam Dulatov is like almost 100% favored on Tapology for this fight. So Ming Ding is 29 years old. He's 6'2" with a 75.2 inch reach. 34-8, and it's crazy that a guy like this is being counted out with this much experience. Almost 50 fights. That's the first thing I see when I look at this fight on paper. Like I said, Dulatov heavily favored. Ding has 27 wins by knockout and 2 wins by submission, 5 wins by decision. So, and most of his losses have been by submission, but he hasn't been submitted since January 2021. I thought I was saying something else there. I thought I put something down wrong. Hasn't been submitted since January 2021. He's also competed in some kickboxing matches recently, and that's one thing that's really frustrating about the guys coming from China who have spent their whole career over there is, I don't have any idea how to watch most of the organizations that they have over there. Um, it's hard to keep up with things, currently. You just kind of have to research guys when they pop up and try to find what you can on YouTube. And but he did compete in one FC. He went 1-1. Um, he's at least fought guys with a lot of experience throughout his career. He's fought a lot and he's fought often every year. 4 or 5 times a year. I was able to find some of his fights on YouTube, but these guys are both huge welterweights. He fights well in the clinch. They're both actually tall, skinny welterweights at that. Uh, and good elbows in the clinch in close. And while he has a lot of knockouts, he doesn't seem to be lost on the ground either. I watched a fight where he took a guy down and mounted him and finished him. He doesn't rush. He takes his time. He has good counter striking. He's a skilled kickboxer. I don't think he's ever fought anybody taller than him like this, especially this much taller than him, with Dulatov being 6'6". But Ming Ding competed in the Kung Fu Championships. He's a sniper. He's not a bad fighter at all. And I'm kind of curious. I wonder that if like this 100% of people that are going with Dulatov even looked into Ming Ding at all. Or if they just saw Dulatov, somebody they recognize, and just picked him immediately or something. Islam Dulatov is 6'6", 6'6" welterweight, 10-1, 6 wins by knockout, 4 wins by submission, 100% finish rate, never been finished, never won a decision either. He competed in some boxing matches recently as well. He has a big following, man, and which is interesting because typically fighters from Germany haven't had a lot of success in the UFC, but maybe he'll be the first. He's super tall and rangy, great calf kicks, really thin legs, great front kicks to the body, very fast hands, fights very aggressive. At times he will just kind of rush and unload on guys with wild combinations. And one thing I notice is like all his wins have been first round finishes. So, how will the cardio hold up if he gets into the second round and third rounds, with a guy who's done it all and seen it all like Ming Ding, it looks like nobody, has really that he's fought has had anything for him. His last 2 opponents had records like 20-12, 42-19. So and they just went out there and got smashed, pretty quickly. Actually, one of them did have some moments in that fight, but not fighting the best competition at all. It's definitely not the prettiest stuff watching him fight. He just kind of swarms guys and throws nonstop punches, but it's effective apparently. He busts guys up, and in his last fight, he almost knocked the guy out several times, but then he almost got caught in an armbar, got taken down a few times. He almost got caught in an armbar twice before finally getting the finish right at the bell at the end of the first round. But I'm not going to lie, man. Like after the fight, after one round, he looked very tired, and he sat down, by the edge of the cage. And part of me wonders, like I said, if people really looked into this hard or not. But I do see the hype behind him. He's always very fun to watch, very exciting. I just kind of have a lot of worries when it comes to a guy whose whole career has been like this. The way he fights is not sustainable for 3 rounds. So is he going to come to the Contender Series, the big show, and slow it down, or is he just going to keep doing the same thing and eventually, gas himself out? But I think if Ming plays his cards right, he could win, especially if Dulatov, comes out fighting like that. If Ming gets out of the first round, he could definitely take the fight over. But yeah, most likely what's going to happen is both these guys are going to come out fired up and probably try to make a statement to really get that contract. And it appears that Dulatov is much better at brawling than Ming, because Ming doesn't ever do that. He fights very smart and safe. I kind of want to pick Ming, but I am going to pick Dulatov to win by knockout round 1. But I think if he gets to the UFC, I think he's probably going to get taken down and beaten pretty often. It'll take him a while to really round out his game and deal with guys that are actually have something for him, guys that can wrestle, guys that can counter, that crazy stuff that he does. But he is a very exciting prospect. He's a huge welterweight. I see why the UFC wants him. But yeah, keep in mind that Ming has more knockout wins than Dulatov has fights. So you just never know, man. And I would think if you're making parlays for this, Um, I would make one with each of these guys on it. With whatever you used to decide to go with, switch them out, and I kind of think the same thing for the main event. Um, it's kind of a similar situation. Um, the main event is Mansour Abdul Malik taking on Wes Schultz. And Malik is 26 years old. He's 6'2" with an 80-inch reach. Trains out of MMA Masters. And everybody's going with Malik. I mean, there's like 26% for Schultz. He's 5-0 and 4 wins by knockout, 1 win by submission. Just hasn't fought anybody with any experience or even a winning record, and he is heavily favored, like I said, and it's all first round finishes. So those are all things that worry me. He hasn't fought anybody with any experience. He hasn't fought anybody with a winning record. All first round finishes. So what's the cardio look like? What's it going to look like if he gets extended to the second, third round? He has fought up at 205 at times, so he's a pretty big guy. This fight's at middleweight. At least Schultz has fought people with more than 3 fights on their record. But Malik has a long reach. He's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage. Uses his jab really well, throws nice straight shots. He's super athletic and explosive. In his pro debut, he looked great early, and then he got dropped and almost knocked out, but then he got the knockout himself. He has a wrestling background. Both these guys are D1 wrestlers. And after watching Malik's last fight, he is good, man. Don't get me wrong. He's super explosive. Good wrestling, nasty ground and pound. But you got to wonder because he hasn't fought anybody good yet, man. But he is a huge guy, and it's scary to go against him. That's for sure. But do you go with the guy who's all explosive and stuff and hasn't ever been out of the first round, or do you go the guy that's actually, got more experience in those ways? Wes Schultz is... Oh, shit. My bad. Wes Schultz is 28 years old. He's 6'2" with a 76-inch reach. He's 6-1, 2 wins by knockout, 3 wins by submission. Never been finished. His one loss was to Dylan Budka, who's in the UFC now. Also, Schultz has a 7-1 amateur career as well. So he is much more experienced than Malik. He beat a 6'7" guy in his last fight, a 6'7" kickboxer, out-wrestled him. Like I said, both these guys, wrestling backgrounds. And he uses it very well, man. I think he was at Wyoming State. Pretty sure it was Wyoming State. He throws good knees in the clinch. His striking is pretty good. Probably the more technical striker out of these two, but the power definitely goes to Malik. And his best bet is if he can get this fight out of the first round because, maybe Malik will get tired and slow down. This is a tough one for me. They both have the wrestling, but Schultz has fought the way better competition. He beat an 11-6 guy when he was 2-0, and that one 11-6 guy has more fights than all of Malik's, all Malik's opponents combined. But the explosiveness of Malik is a lot to deal with early, man, and but also when you think about the only guy that's beat Schultz so far was also a wrestler. Budka's also a wrestler, so Malik might be able to out-wrestle Schultz. I've been going back and forth myself on this one. Schultz didn't get finished in his loss. I think Schultz is a little bit more of a skilled grappler MMA-wise, with his wrestling. He applies things, better as far as the MMA aspect of things. But, Malik is just super explosive and strong. Malik, I think Schultz kind of relies more on technique, whereas Malik relies on, raw power and everything, which could possibly tire him out. My brain tells me I should take the guy with the more proven skill set that's fought the tougher competition. But Malik is a scary dude to pick against. And I wish I knew what the lines were. I will be making a little parlay for these. I'll probably make 2, and I'll probably make one with each of these guys on it. Just like 2 parlays, and one will have Ming Ding and Schultz, and the other will have Malik and Dulatov. But I don't know, man. I wanna say I'm gonna go with Schultz, but Malik is very very, very hard to deal with. So, as far as a pick, I guess, for this, even though, like I said, I'll make a parlay with each of them. Man, Malik's a big dude, though. I'll go with Malik. But like I said, I'll make a parlay with both of them. Um, I imagine Schultz will end up being an underdog, which that's going to be a lot more appealing to me. But if I had the lines, I would be able to say for sure because I'd probably just take whoever the underdog is. Um, but yeah, Schultz has the more experience, the more well-rounded skill set, fought the tougher competition. But Malik is a lot to deal with, man. He's very, very explosive, very strong, and he might just blow right through Schultz. So, sorry, I keep saying the same shit over and over again. I'm out of it. Just woke up. But I want to get this out, man, and we'll see how this video does, and maybe I can keep doing these. Also wanted to tell y'all, I just put out my video for the Tabora Spivak card, and I only had 6 of the betting lines at that point. But there are more up today, so I added another play, which is a 2-fight parlay of Johnny Parsons and Gregorio. And I think one's like a -200, one's like a -185. It's a +130 on a 2-fight parlay, and I put a half unit on that. So I added that to that card. I'll post it on all my social medias and stuff. And I'm debating on a play on Luciano. She's a -155 right now at opening. I was really hoping she'd be an underdog. But I'm thinking maybe the line will switch because Alan Carr beat her. Well, they got a draw before, but Alan Carr was able to take her down and stuff. In the last time they fought, so maybe people will see that and some money will come in on Alan Carr, and I can get a little bit better price on Luciano. But we'll see what happens, man, and I'll let y'all know. And I'll post whatever I make for the Dana White Contender Series card. I'll post that for you guys too. So, but I appreciate all you guys. Thank you for caring what I have to say, man. Hope you enjoy the video, and I'll holler at you guys later, man. Hope you guys win some money. Y'all have a good one.